from where I sit, I was awarded a grant from United Thank Offering, which is a ministry of the Episcopal Church. So in this model that I'm going to be presenting at the Conference for Medicine and Religion in Oregon in about 10 days, this is a new model where you can have people who are working in pastoral spaces collaborate with academics. And our protocol had all the checks that were needed. We got an IRB protocol in, we got IRB approval, we did it all through the steps of academic research. So I think it's an exciting time, and there's a lot of data out there showing that there are benefits. Now I'm opening the compass. There's a lot of data, a lot of studies that show some health benefits, very specific health benefits from religious or spiritual practices.
I wonder if the words get in the way. When I think of what you're describing, Marta, it's nothing different than what some people do when they go take a walk in the woods. There's a connection, there's a embodiment of that connection, an awareness, an openness to what's around them. At least that's the way I hear it when you say it. And I think sometimes the words get in the way because, people think, well, prayer means this, and I wonder your thoughts on that. It seems to me what you're describing is something very innate and organic and natural that all of us do. We may not put words to it, but it's just part of the human experience to connect in that way. And when we experience awe, for instance, these are not things that was a skill where you had to figure out how to experience awe. You hold a baby and you feel something different. So I'd love your thoughts on that, the wording, how maybe that's a piece, or whether that's accurate, what I'm hearing about this kind of experience.
Yeah, no, you actually have described prayer for what prayer is. I think that what we have traditionally, what we have understood about prayer is that it's a formula that you either read or you say, and there are some prayers that are indeed formulas, right? But prayer is really a form of communication with a higher power. It's very simple, or with a higher something. And that connection that you describe so well, that is what prayer really is. And that's why we're so excited about this scale, and this tool, because seen from that point of view of that connection with something bigger, higher, something good, the goodness of the universe that can help you, I think people will embrace more than that traditional go to church or do this or do that. Although I go back to telling you that there's a lot of data coming out where actually going to church is very helpful. But that's okay. That has their people. We want to have something that can reach into every human being. And what you have described, that's really what prayer is. We just tend to catalog prayer as something more formulaic or something more formative. Yeah.
I think the really beautiful thing that you're bringing out is that people can start to realize that they all have that capacity.
Yes.
For connection on different levels,
that's right.
Whether it's with nature.
That's right.
And to me, that's really when we honor patients, is to say, you have this. It's in there, like you can connect on these different levels and find health. And
I also do not want to dismiss the fact that there's data that supports praying to God versus praying to a generic entity. So there are two elegant randomized controlled trials in two groups, religious, non-religious, and then in doing what they call religious prayer, which is praying to God, or secular prayer, which is praying to Mr. Hansen or Mr. Smith. And there are differences. And in those studies, comes that deeper layer of the faith and the belief and the relationship with God. So there are deeper layers to this. But if we want to keep it simple, there's also data, prospective randomized control data. And some of this data comes from my collaborator, from Dr. Mines, where simply volunteers were randomized to pray an active prayer or not pray an active prayer, pray passive or not to pray at all, and then immerse their hands in ice water. And then tolerance, how many seconds they lasted. And I have to tell you, it was very interesting because passive prayer group was as good as, or as no good as no prayer. So there was definitely a difference. The active prayer group had better tolerance. So there's data, and I think that this is all evolving, but I think that the content, at least in my area, which is Spain, the content of the prayer, if the person is open to trying it, because in these examples, these were just volunteers. They were not enrolled because they were religious or any of that. They just had to be willing to try the prayers.
Thank you so much for joining us for the discussion today. If you would like to learn more about our guest, head on over to our Patreon page, where you can access exclusive content, including the full segment of our show. Never want to miss an Inside the Doctor's Lounge clip? Be sure to click the subscribe button to our MD Coaches YouTube channel. As always, we appreciate suggestions for future show topics. Let us know what you're thinking in the comments below. And finally, special thanks to Ryan Jones, who created and performs our theme music for the show.